Welcome to USA Biz Party, the party after the party, the chat after the chat. I'm Anna Scheller, and I am the host of USA Biz Party. It is a pleasure to have you joining me, whether you're on social media, one of the three platforms that we go to, Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, or, if you're watching me on TV or you're listening to the podcast, it's great to have you. If you're with me on social, please say hello. Let me know that you're with me. I know we've got a couple of people here, and it's always good to know who you are, where you're joining me from. Today, we had a very interesting topic, and we chose it deliberately because there are some new features coming out on Twitter. And there's a lot of people are welcoming some of the new features. Other people are saying, I don't know about that. And I think that all of the features needed to be discussed. And we only went in depth for maybe about 3 of the new features. So we'll be chatting about that. Of course, it's always fun if we have a panel, but if you ever are, well, here's the thing, make it a priority to join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time to join us for the chat. For those of you who may not be familiar with what a chat is, a Twitter chat is a dedicated time, usually just an hour, in which a group of people come together to talk about specific topics. There are some amazing chats out there. USA Biz Party, we talk about things that are business. We talk about ways to help people grow their businesses. And we accept suggestions from people within the chat. So if you're joining me again, please say hello to me in the chat box, wherever you are. If you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter. So I've got my, let's see, where am I? Let's see, I will be doing a Clubhouse on Friday. Let's see, let me come back. I'm just checking a few things here to see if I've got any people who are interested in joining me live. Hey, Alex from Colfax Insurance. She's a State Farm agent, and she breeds chickens, right? So she just shared with us some chickens. Eastern Washington, yes. I grew up in Pasco, Washington, which is also considered Eastern Washington. And who else do we have joining? That would be amazing if you would just pop in and say hello. So as I was saying earlier, oh, hey, yeah, we have somebody joining us. I'm so excited. We're going to add John Buglino. Hello, John.
Hey, Anna, how's it going?
And we matched. Look at that.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bird that said something. I don't know.
Yeah, I after what happened last week, I figured I might as well just go and embrace the red.
For those of you who don't know what that's about, first of all, we are twinning. Thank you. And it's Marianne from Spokane. Oh, how funny. Marianne from Spokane. But last week we talked about colors, and John mentioned something about how red tends to be associated with bad. And Christine Gritman, it is her brand color. So it generated a lot of fun discussion, which is one of the great things about being in these chats is we've all become friends, Yeah,
she was listening and called me out on it immediately. I was like, oh boy, this is not great. So I was with her chat before the USA Biz Party. I made sure I took a picture. I was like, look, I'm embracing red. And she, so it was all good. But yeah, she's always listening. She's fantastic. She was great when she was your guest, and she does amazing things, and nothing but the best for Christine.
Well, and Alex says red is good. That was a lesson you learned last week, right? Well, today we were talking about these new features. Thank you for that, Alex. And Marianne from Spokane, she's a realtor in Spokane. She says we're twinning. So we didn't know we were going to do that, but how amazing. So this week we were talking about these new features that are coming out. We specifically focused on spaces. So we'll devote a good amount of time to that. Super followers and communities. So super followers is still really, I'm thinking it's the way people are responding, it's really controversial because, there are other ways for people to monetize their content other than creating an exclusive group or exclusive followers that only get certain tweets. So what's your
Yeah.
take on that, John?
Yeah, the super followers thing, and I shared the link in the chat on, I think The Verge had an article about it. I don't know. I think as soon as you start talking about pay to play, I think people just put a wall up. I think it's immediately slower adoption. I do see the value. I do see why Twitter's doing it, how to monetize, users on their platform. They do have one of the most robust user base, if you will. And I think there's brands that are trying to figure out how to generate return, how do they get money back from the value and the value of the content they're providing consistently to the different audiences. So I think it's going to be slower to adopt. I think there's going to be initial people are going to gravitate towards like the major mega brands that are out there. But I think for the smaller businesses, I think they're going to struggle with it. I think they're still trying to find their footing. So I think slower to adopt, but I think eventually more will join in. But I'm more excited for the other features like spaces and communities, to be honest.
I agree. I think the pay to play thing is a little off-putting, and it is going to take more time. I was thinking about when we jumped from the 140 character limit to the 280, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is not going to work. And obviously it has. It's been beneficial. Of course, that wasn't a pay to play feature. That was just something that they did, which I thought was actually brilliant. Gave people more ability to share their thoughts still succinctly. I mean, you still can't put a ton of stuff in 280 characters, but I think it was a good switch. Well,
Yeah.
and I think super followers will probably come along, but I'm with you in that I believe that the bigger brands, people with super large followings are going to be able to take advantage of that more easily. And people, to be honest, it's not going to be for the entrepreneur or the person who's on there to build community. It's really going to be for people who have staff that are going to be able to make the time to create the kind of content that people will actually pay for. I mean, even somebody like Grant Cardone or someone, super huge like that, I think people might initially start that super follower thing with them, but they're really going to have to do a lot to maintain the kind of value that people are going to be willing to pay for 280 characters at a time.
Right. And I think that's it too. It's just like how much like gold are people going to be able to supply, right? So if you think about like authors, you think about, the industry influence on there. I mean, they get the vanity metrics high because they just have such, like you said, like a robust following. But I don't know if I'd necessarily pay a monthly stipend or things like that to get that content. It's one of the best things about Twitter is that it's free, right? And I think, when I shared in the chat the stat that there's over 500 million users that access the platform without even logging in, means that Twitter doesn't even care. You're sharing content, people are sharing content, and you don't have to be logged in to see it. Similar to like TikTok type of things. Like you can find a TikTok video, you can see them on all the platforms, but you don't necessarily have to have a user or log in to see it. It's just content that people, are being shared with because of communities and people they're following or sharing it as well. So I think like I said, it's going to be slower on the adoption side of it. And I think the taxing piece of it is, to your point, like how much content are we going to need to deliver? So if you're paying $5 a month, say, or $10 a month, say, whatever it may be, or even if it's like $2, whatever, what is the expectation, right? Is it free infographics? Is it videos? Like, what is the media? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it biweekly? Like, what is going on here? What is the level set expectations? And then all you need is someone to be doing something daily to completely undermine the value of someone doing something, say, on a monthly basis, right? So I think it's going to be weighing, the pros and the cons with it. If I'm getting something on a daily basis, I'm not going to look at it daily. Think about daily emails. There's certain individuals that do really well. At the same time, I don't think I want to have daily content from everyone, that's like, oh, buy my thing, or here, see this thing, or because you're paying, I'm going to send you this. Like it's going to dilute it in the long run, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a well taken point. Let me pull myself back up here. uh, that is a well taken point because without some kind of uniformity, and then I don't know that we want to create that. Well, for this level of super follower, you have to do this because that starts to interfere with creativity. I see we have another viewer, so I would just want to make a shout out to you. Thank you for joining. Please feel free to jump into the chat and say hello to us. If you have an opinion about this, we would love for you to share it with us. We can put it across the bottom and we can interact with you. We had fun last week doing something very similar, and I would love to continue that kind of interaction. Now, let's get to, I think, one of everybody's favorite things that Twitter has done, and that is spaces.
Yeah.
Spaces. People are comparing it to Clubhouse. So I have to say that I think, number one, Twitter was brilliant to bring it in, and they did it very quickly. I mean, Clubhouse was still pretty new, and I'm on Clubhouse, I'm on Twitter Spaces, but they were very quick to adopt it, and it is a whole different feel inside of Spaces as it is inside of Clubhouse. So, have
Right.
you had? I know you've been on Clubhouse some. You've been on Clubhouse with me, and you said that you've
Hmm.
been working with some Spaces. I think is what I understood.
Yes.
What
Hmm.
is your yeah? What is your opinion? What has your experience been? I think that's really best. What has your experience been with the two platforms?
Yeah, I think both are positive. I think the one advantage that Twitter has with Space is that you're native to the platform, right? So someone sharing uh, Clubhouse across, say like a Facebook or even on Twitter, you're taking someone off of that platform to go to a different platform, right? So you're not keeping them right there. Whereas on Spaces, you can just look at the top, you can check out the fleets, you can check out what's going on, then you can just see the spaces. And I like how they prioritize it, right? So they make sure that there's a space that might be of interest to you based on your followers or based on others that are in your community, front and center. And then you go to the fleets. I think Clubhouse is also really did a really great job. I think they played the scarcity mindset. Even the whole thing, people mentioning like FOMO and things like that. Who has invites? I'll get you in. You got to join my room, join my group. So I think they both have their ways, and I think they both are providing value. I do spend a lot of time on both, and jumping into different things. I do say the volume of Clubhouse is much greater right now than Spaces. There's far more consistent rooms and groups and influencers jumping on Clubhouse than Spaces. But I think that's quickly going to change. I think as the popularity of Twitter Spaces comes on, I think there's a couple of key players that are doing it already. Shout out to Madeline Sklar, who's doing a phenomenal job. Even Christine's jumping on and doing on Friday. I know we did a Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse on Friday. So I think the adoption of it's going to come right up. And I think Clubhouse is going to lose a little bit of that I say user share, but I think they're each going to be able to, operate separately and still provide value to their audiences.
Yeah, I would agree. And for us at USA Biz Party, we're working to bring them together. I like Twitter
Sure.
because I like the Twitter Spaces because it's just easy to pop in there. I'm on Twitter anyway. Like you said, it's native.
Yeah, it's native. That's the one thing it has. That's the one advantage.
It does. And, anybody that's on Twitter, I think it's going to Android. I think there are Android users that are now able to join. So, Spokane House, so Mary Ann, she said that Twitter had been planning on doing it a few years before, but it was shelved prior to the pandemic. So, now that I didn't know. So that's thank you for sharing that. And then so I'm going to share her tweets because I think they're really pertinent here. Then when they saw Clubhouse, they saw the benefit of pivoting and used the Periscope platform. And they're going all in for spaces, obviously. I personally like the spaces thing because it's just again, it's native, it's simple, it's easy, and you can stay for as long or as short as you like. It really doesn't matter. One thing I have heard, which is let's see again. Marianne saying users can be iOS and Android on Spaces now. So I know for a while, I think it was just iOS, but now it's both. And there was chatter going on about using it on your MacBook. So that'll be exciting when that. So thank you for sharing that, Marianne. Thank you. And she says, I love the community on Twitter Spaces. And I do too. So right now we're in a super busy time for my company. We just got a couple of new projects, which is exciting. So
Oh,
once,
great.
yeah, the dust clears from here, I'm really, really looking forward to. I'm planning to do a space every morning, and kind of play with the idea. Maybe some days motivational, some days more techie. So I think it'll be a lot of fun to explore that avenue with spaces. And again, she says, as an early beta host, it's been fun to see the evolution. So yeah, it really has. I've jumped into a couple of spaces just to see what other people are doing, and I think I like the creativity inside the space. I love the
Right.
creativity inside the space. Um, Whereas Clubhouse just has a different feel. It's not that one is better than the other. I guess maybe I'm just such a Twitter geek that I'm just partial to Twitter. Anyway, let's move on to communities. Communities, you had some really good thoughts about communities. I'd love for you to share those thoughts about communities. Uh, Before we do that, just so our listeners who are listening to the podcast or who are watching the TV show, what's happening is that we're going to be creating, or Twitter's creating communities. I understand that they may be paid communities. I'm hoping not. I really think that we need, there could be a place for that, but I really would like to see where communities, where we come together apart from the chat to really connect and network even more. I think that would be valuable without having to pay. But John, share your feelings on it.
Yeah, I think communities is probably the one feature that Twitter has coming out that I'm pretty excited about. I did mention in the chat, and Esther and I were talking about lists, right? So right now you can create a list of individuals based on like the Twitter chat, right? So I have a USA Biz Party participant list, but it's not necessarily the advantage of community is now going to be those individuals are going to be in a community. We're going to be talking about a subject, right? Not just any subject in the world right now, because the list just gives you their tweets first, or it just buckets them differently. So you just look at those, check out those tweets first, just to kind of, cut through a little bit of the noise, or what did you miss from the people that you care and are near and dear to you. I think community is going to give the opportunity to focus on a particular subject, a topic, and then have the individuals within that said community weigh in on it. So it's going to be a little bit different than lists where you're just going to get a combination or all the tweets from these individuals that are on these lists. So I think community is going to narrow the focus of what you want to focus on in the community based on a certain subject. So I think that's going to be a differentiator as well. I know I already have plans to utilize it for my business, and I have some ideas to kind of go forward there. So I'm excited about that. I think I'm like you. I don't want it to be paid. I want to have people because I think that puts it, sets the bar a little bit too high. I think there's just a set of expectation that if I'm paying a X fee that I'm owed something. So I'd rather I just be like casual. I love interacting with the people within the Twitter chat and everyone right now in the community. So to kind of put them all in one big group, I think the one piece that I would worry about is how people view other groups, right? So every platform is doing what the other one's doing. So, when Fleets came out, everyone's like, oh, here's Twitter, Snapchat, kind of thing. So there's always that stigma. So I think Alex in the chat mentioned that it's like Facebook groups, right? So I think there's a stigma that Facebook groups is just a massive amount of people, very few engage, same as LinkedIn groups. You have groups with like 250,000 people in it, but there's like 2 people that engage. I think my hope is that you have a community, say around 10 to 50 people, everyone's engaging, everyone's rallying around a certain topic, and have it not really just blow out into this massive amorphous blob that no one really can reel in or keep control of. So I'm hoping it keeps, keep it succinct when it comes to community members and the engagement and the monitoring and stuff like that. And it doesn't explode and get into something like, these Facebook and LinkedIn groups with hundreds of thousands of people with no one engaging, because that's not really what you want. You want the engagement, you want to provide value, and you want everyone to get something out of and learn, at least on a consistent basis.
Oh, definitely. Agreed. And Marianne is asking, so what is your business, John?
So I'm currently the director of marketing for Optessa. So we help manufacturers optimize their production plans and schedules. Layman's terms, we help you the best way to optimize and get your goods produced from point A to point B, right? So if you're producing a car, we're going to tell you the most efficient way it is to get all the parts needed for that car from the start of the line to the end of the line. Same as we do like the paint shop optimizations. We're going to tell you which cars to paint, in what order to optimize those kinds of pieces. So we're helping manufacturers across the globe with their production plans and schedules. And it's tough for us because we're up against, I had a call earlier today, and they're like, who are your competitors? I said, my competitor is manual process. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, my competitor is free, right? Because there's people that could do it without paying for software. You could do it manually with spreadsheets and, different tools, but the level of sophistication with the software we provide, or any software, even of our true competitors, is unmatched. It's just hours taken off of the production, planner and scheduler's day. And we get the optimal result for them.
Yeah, and Marianne, I just have to say that since John has come on board as the director of marketing, Optessa has really grown significantly. I mean, he brought his branding. John's been part of USA Biz Party almost from the inception. I mean, John and I, we did a swag. I really wanting to do a swag swap. So as we build our community, we're going to do that. USA Biz Party, we're going to do fun things in that community. I'm just saying, we're going to have a lot of fun in our community.
It's gonna be awesome.
It needs to be fun. I mean, I was so glad that we got a lot of diverse opinions about all of the different features that are coming out on Twitter. We didn't even talk about the safe mode, which I think is great, because you're going to have the ability to toggle people off who are trolling. And, they're talking about business profiles. And that I think is going to be very interesting, because I think that's going to help to distinguish. It's going to create some real distinction for businesses, so that you can have a personal account and you can also have a business account, and they can be starting to interact. I think that's going to be another.
Yeah, I think there's a couple other things. I think there was even in the article I think I shared, and there's been a couple other ones. Twitter's, I think even Marianne, you said it, like they're reacting to it. Like they've had these ideas. I think they need to start being the first to market with it, other than being the reactionary party in it, right? So fleets, they should have done a lot sooner. I think spaces, they should have announced a lot quicker than they did, when they saw the explosion from Clubhouse and how many users they've gained so quickly. I think they just have to do a lot more to be on the forefront. I think there's other items that they're doing as well. I know they acquired a while ago now a newsletter service, Review. And you go on underneath the tabs where you look at, analytics or your profile, and you can send out a newsletter. There's so many things you can do on the platform that so many are not taking advantage of, that I think they need to really focus on having people understand the value they can get out of Twitter over the other channels. Because right now they look like they're in a backpedal when they're really at the forefront of, innovating on the social media platforms and networks. Right. So I think they need to do a little bit better job on this. And I just hope the whole piece of, the pay to play doesn't drag them down and people get stuck in it, or people, leave the platform, when there's so many good things that are happening on Twitter from a platform standpoint.
Definitely agree. Well, and as you were saying that, I thought, maybe Twitter you ought to be sending them your resume. Look what you did for Optessa. And just having known you all these years, It's we even had. I wish we could have met in New Jersey this last week, or this last month. Huh, everything's gone so fast. But yeah, I think, Twitter is a really robust platform. It's gotten some bad press recently. Last year was really tough because of all of the political nonsense that was going back and forth and everything. But I really am with you that I think Twitter is a very powerful platform, and it has so much potential for people who really want to grow their business that um, so I think maybe we ought to be doing a chat just about some of these other topics to really help people really utilize Twitter. Of course, that could be part of our community.
Yeah.
So many cool ideas. So anyway, Marianne, I want to thank you for joining us today. It was a delight to have you. And John, of course, I'm so glad you
Thank
jumped on.
you.
I'm actually dreading talking about this all by myself.
Happy to jump in. Happy to jump in. Not a problem at all.
Awesome. Awesome. And of course, we had Alex with us for a while. Thank you, Alex. For those of you who are just now joining, please say hello in the chat. I go back and I tweet and I share the things that you share with us here. And also, here's something that you can do for us. Why don't you go over to Facebook? Speaking of groups, we do have a community over there. It's a small community right now. It's our Facebook group. So you go to facebook.com/groups/USA Biz Party. And actually, I think that's probably where John ends up joining us a lot of times because you're usually on Facebook, not on Twitter when
Yes.
you pop in to say hello to us. So, Facebook, great place. Again, once the dust settles a little bit from what I'm working on right now, plan to be utilizing that a whole lot more. And the other thing to do is go to usabiz.party. It's an actual website. So go to usabiz.party. We're going to be building that out here in the next 3 to 6 months, really making USA Biz Party. We want USA Biz Party to not just be a chat. We want it to be a community, and we want it to be a resource for all things to help people grow their businesses here in the United States. Any last words, John?
No, I think that's great. Yeah, I definitely encourage everyone to jump into the Facebook group. That's where I do the live streams, and jump in and engage with you. But also with Periscope gone now, there's really nothing else. There's YouTube and Facebook now to catch us and catch USA Biz Party. So definitely encourage that, and very much looking forward to the build out of what you're doing. You and Esther doing a phenomenal job, and hopefully I can support you guys in what's next with you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, let's see. We have another comment. And Marianne, thank you for joining us today. It was a delight to have you. Again, join us next week. We will be continuing this conversation on what's new with Twitter, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you again.
Thank you.